So it is my pleasure to talk to you about the PT Hybrid from 777. It is huge, it's 7.2, and with this wing, it wasn't love at first sight.
Welcome to Matt on Foil.
So when you buy this Parawing, you get this little bag that comes with it. Some people use it to put it on the harness here. I've never done that, and as it is quite slim, you can also open the zipper before you put it in, so you have a little more wiggle room to put it in. The Hybrid is like other Parawings from 777. It is light, and that's the first thing that really that you really feel. The fabric is super light, and you see the lines on the bar have this arc again, so you have a free bar and you have a harness attached to it, and it's important. We're gonna come to that later. The bridles are well colored. You have blue in the front, red in the middle, and orange in the back.
Line length is more than my span. I'm 180.
So it's probably around 2 meters. And the special thing about this Parawing is that the front part is double skin, and the second part here in the back is single skin. So that's what a hybrid is. It gets air in at the front, that front part blows up, and that makes it super stable. You come to the feel later on. You have a lot of battens here in between, so the leading edge stays pretty solid. You have holes in between, so there's some airflow in between, which adds to the whole feel. Now this is a big Parawing. It's a 7.2, so you can see it's a lot of fabric. We're gonna see how that turns out to be in the waves. What 777 also has is these chambers that are filled with air, so you not only have the front part inflated, but also the side part inflated. Now you might ask yourself, well, what happens if water gets in? You have some holes in the back here where water can get out. It takes some time, yes. We're going to talk about that in a second. Now let me tell you about the feel on the water. If the wind is there and that front part is well inflated, the wing is super stable, and which is actually nice, because when you fly with your Parawing and a gust hits, some of the Parawings, they start to move around a lot, and the Hybrid stays really stable. So it's really easy to control when going upwind. Another advantage that you have with the Hybrid is the high end. If the wind gets stronger, this absorbs a lot of power and transforms it into movement forward. So you are very fast with that Parawing. Now let me compare the Hybrid 7.2 to the 7.3 single skin, the PT skin they have. I reviewed it, you can find it somewhere up here. And this one is really easy, it's really nice to ride upwind as well, but compared to the 7.3, this Parawing handles gusts way better. Whereas if you have a lot of power, the 7.3 just becomes a little bit unstable, and this one just absorbs the energy. I'm probably gonna say that a lot more. The advantage that the 7.3 has compared to this one is just a better low end, because it just flies better, it stays better in the air, it has less fabric, so if you're in these 9, maybe 10 knots, then the PT skin, the single skin, is just a bit easier. Also the handling, whereas the single skin has longer lines, this one with the shorter lines still is a bit harder to maneuver, maybe because of the inflated front part. So like maneuvering these Parawings is just not as easy. To stash it, it is a little more than 1 arm's length. It is shorter than the single skin, but once you have it come together like that, then you just wait a little bit until the air gets out of that front part, and then you can take it together and pack it in a really nice and small little bowl. So we talked about it, the high end is incredibly good. So I've ridden this Parawing at the low end, but also way overpowered. And I just didn't manage to collapse it. Really, for me, it was not possible. What this Parawing has, and I don't know if that's like common knowledge, but it has a turbo mode. So if you have the Parawing like this and it's flying, you just take these lines once you're up and you just pull them in. And when you do that, the parawing kind of gets smaller, it gets flatter and way faster. So that turbo mode is something that I want to keep pushing, that I want to keep experimenting on. And I don't know if you guys had a similar feel. This turbo mode, and it was showed to me by Tizian Burgener. This is something very interesting. So maybe in the future we see parawings with trimming options where you have like a deeper, more round parawing, and once you're up flying, you trim it somehow to make it flatter, to make it faster. There was a little bit upwind that lacked later on when I did that, but the speed was really another gear. Now, this parawing, it really works. It does. But there are just a few things that I don't like too much. Like, first of all, the low end is just not as much there as the single skin, and I want a huge parawing for the low end. So that's kind of lacking a little bit. And also, this parawing is just a bit more difficult than the single skin in terms of maneuvers. Yes, the lines are shorter, but still, if you make a handle pass or a down loop, it just needs a little bit more time until like the front part is filled with wind again. So maneuvers, you need some time to let it fly, but still the movements need to be big to move such a big parawing. And you know, especially when learning, this thing is gonna get wet. And if it gets wet, if it gets in the water, yeah, you're gonna have water within these front cells. And of course, you have that drainage system, but I tell you, taking the water out of that, I cursed more with this parawing than with any other parawing until now. So, you know, you need to be committed. I need to really try to keep it flying. If you can make it fly, then it works very well. If not, you know, this is not your learner's parawing, and that is the next section. Who is that parawing actually for? Well, it really depends on your location. If you want to parawing, maybe in the flat, maybe free riding, or you have some bumps, but just not that wind. Maybe it's gusting. And I would say if it's gusting, if it's never going below 10, but sometimes you have gusts up until 20 or even 25 knots, then this is epic. If it's gusting between maybe 5 and 15 or 5 and 20, this one is really gonna be hard because you have these moments when it dips into the water and you're gonna have some trouble. So a single skin, if it doesn't go over 15, the 7.3 I think is actually better. So I would say I'm an experienced parawinger by now. I'm not the best, obviously, but this one I wouldn't recommend for a beginner. If you're a beginner, take a single skin, which is easier to handle, and if you make a mistake, then it's just easier to get it flying again. If you are a decent parawinger and you say, you know, I have so many gusts coming in and then I'm overpowered, I don't have the strength anymore to handle a single skin parawing, this really works. So that was it with the review. If you want to see other reviews, somewhere here or here, you have my playlist of all the reviews I do. And stay tuned for the next review of the parawing. It's going to be the Nash Hatch, their second version. Super interesting as well. So see you guys in the next one.